Dr. Lorene Wisham, dubbed as the $1 Million Solutionist, is an award-winning career, business, and lifestyle solutionist, coach, author, and international speaker. Dr. Lorene has an extraordinary story of transforming her own life after leaving a mid-management corporate position, gaining 55 pounds from a medically prescribed steroid, and taking a form of chemo for over 7 years. She lost the weight, implemented a healthy lifestyle plan, and transformed herself into a successful entrepreneur, all the while teaching others to take it to a whole new level in career, business, and life. The process is based on her trademark GSA factor: growth, success, acceleration. She sits at the helm of Dr. Lorene International, the Achievers Women's Association, the Achievers Academy, and the Achievers Magazine Incorporated. Okay, Dr. Lorene has been featured in the Houston Business Journal, the Houston Chronicle, the Houston Magazine, and on Fox TV News, the Word Network TV, Daystar as well. She is the author of the amazing bestseller, Fit, Fine, and Fabulous in Career, Business, and Life. She has co-authored books with Donald Trump, Jack Canfield, Dr. Stephen Covey, I think that's Covey. Covey, and Patricia Fripp. She is the recipient of numerous awards, and she holds a bachelor's degree in general education, a master's degree in psychology, and a PhD in psychology and Christian counseling. If you can handle all that, then you'll be obliged to help me welcome Dr. Lorene Wisham.
Have you thought about this? When you get, you give. Can we go to the next slide? I'm sorry. Second slide. When you get, you give. When you learn, you teach. I have been very fortunate over the years. I have been able to get, and I've been able to learn. So it's with my pleasure that I stand before you so that I can give and that give it out to you what I have learned, and so that you can go give it to someone else and teach someone else. As you get and as you learn, you want to give and you want to teach. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand up. We're going to do something. And I want you to kind of clear your mind, and we're going to do some deep breathing. And you're probably thinking, okay, what does this have to do with building a strong church administration and personal development? But you will see. So we're going to breathe from right here. So when I tell you, I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to hold it until I say let it go. So let's pull it up from here. Hold it, let it go. We're going to do this again. Pull it all the way up. Hold it, let it go. Pull it all the way up again. Hold it, hold it, hold it, let it go. Now, what do you think that did for you?
Relaxation.
It was part of relaxation, but believe it or not, when you deep breathe, it clears your mind. And I wanted your mind to be clear because we're going to visualize certain things. We're going to see things in the future. So we now have a clear mind, which means you can accept what I'm going to receive. Now, the next thing I want you to do is to find someone, and I want you to look at them, find someone that's funny, that looks funny to you, or, now it could be a private joke, or if no one here looks really funny to you, think about something that's funny. So either are you going to look at each other or you want to think about something that's funny? What do you want to do? Think about something that's funny. Okay, think about something that's funny. And here's what I want you to do. When I say laugh, I want you to laugh. Okay? We're going to do it 3 times. You got something pictured. Think about something your kids might have done, something you might have done that was really funny, and it was kind of embarrassing, but something funny. Okay? So Okay, so here's what I want you to do. You got it in your mind? Okay, now I want you to laugh. Come on, laugh. Good. Okay, we're going to do... Okay, this went a little bit further than what I planned. Okay, I want you to do it again. 1, 2, 3, laugh. Okay. This is the last time. 1, 2, 3, laugh. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. And the reason why I had you to laugh, because in the Bible, laughter is mentioned 16 times. We know that when we laugh, it relieves tension, it relieves stress. So as you go about your day, always find something that you can laugh about. The deep breathing, it clears your mind. And if we listen to what Dr. Oz says, if we laugh 5 times a day for 365 days, we will be 10 pounds thinner at the end of the year. So for those of you who want to do the 10 pounds, then this is the right time. So it's biblical, it's a stress reliever, and if you really do 5 times every day, you will lose 10 pounds. So you now may be seated. So thank you very much for participating in that. So, now that we have this clear mind, I want you to picture yourself where you are right now. I want you to picture the administration, this ministry, where you are right now. And then I want you to look to the future. And this is where you are. This is where the administration might be at this point. But what I want you to start seeing from this day forward is the future. So everything that you see as it relates to yourself, as it relates to the administration and the ministry, will always be future focused. So future wave at us. We really like our future. Our future, it looks good. It looks bright. So this is what we look at. Even though we're here, everything that we see is here. And that was why I asked you to clear your mind, because I want you to see the future. Okay? Okay, so next slide. Next. Okay, we're going to talk about the 7 keys of a good church administration. And I thought these are really good. And interesting enough, these same 7 principles that we use in church administration, they're also used in the world. So we both know that the principles interact. And as long as we follow the principles, everything is going to be good. So as we look at those principles, the one thing is to know where the church is going. Do you all know where your church is going? You have a questionnaire, and I really want you guys to answer the questions on the questionnaire as we go through it. You want to create an atmosphere so that when someone comes into the church, it's inviting. You want to have if I came to your church this coming up Sunday, I should be able to have that whole experience. I should feel like, wow, I'm really welcome here. Wow, this really makes sense for me. I may want to be a member here. You want to take care of your church members. And you need to provide opportunities. You guys are part of the administration. But what about those members? They need that same opportunity to grow and to serve. So as you all grow, as you get and as you learn, you give it back and you teach as you go forward. And the most important thing is that you want to enjoy the experience. You want to make sure that everything that you do, that it lines up with whatever the word is, whatever the underlying principles are for this administration. Next slide. Now, how many of you have ever tried to set a glass of water on a table with 3 legs? Doesn't quite work too well, does it? So when you think about church administration, it must have all 4 legs. And to me, the most important of the 4 legs for church administration is the first leg, which is where you have your organizational chart. It's your operations plan. That second leg is where you learn to systematize those things that you are manually doing. That third leg is that financial fundraising plan. And that fourth leg is the strategic plan. Now just think, if I had this table and there were only 3 legs, none of this would work. What if I was missing that strategic plan? Would the other 3 be able to operate appropriately as a table? Absolutely not. So we need to have all 4 of these in order for the administration to function as it should. So when we think about the operational plan or the organizational plan, next slide, these are the components that should be in that plan. How many of you know the mission of this administration? Okay, that's one of your questions. If you know the mission, I want you to write it down. That mission, again, is where we are today. But you also need to have the vision, which is where I'm going. So your mission is today. Your vision is where you want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. And the other I've got here, messaging. Everybody should be saying the same thing. Those of you that are part of administration, whatever it is, whatever the mission is, whatever the vision statement might be, everyone should know that so well that you can say it in your sleep. I mean, you can just say it at any point. Because when members come and they look to the administration, they've got to know that the administration is on one accord. And the only way they're going to know that is that when they hear the message, it's the same message over and over and over again. How many of you have a job description in writing? Okay. When is the last time you looked at your job description? It's been a while?
Should be November.
Okay. So one of the things I want you to do tomorrow is to revisit your job description. See what it says. Because if you've got to have that vision for the future for yourself, as well as for the administration of the church, you've got to know what your role might be. And when you look at that as an administration, it's not just you, it's we, it's a team. So now you may be over a particular area, but then you're also part of the big administration. So when you talk about your role, it's not what I do, it's what we do. It's what our team does. When I speak, I talk about team. Mr. Gentry is part of my company. He's part of the team. When I sit and meet with him, I never say I, because it's the company and it's the team. When we talk, we say we, because that's the buy-in. When you talk to the new members, when you talk to anyone, you want to have that buy-in. So it's always we. Doesn't it feel good when you hear the word we versus the word I? It makes a difference. So, and notice I have on here that part of what you should know is your day-to-day responsibilities. A job description is one thing, but what are those day-to-day responsibilities? Because those are the things that at some point a system needs to be put in place for those things to work appropriately. Next slide. So we're going to talk about how to systematize, next slide, how to do a system. So when you look at that, we think about the day-to-day things. What are those day-to-day things that you do that can be automated? For example, I am a member of a church, and one of the things that they did, instead of having individuals calling people every week, they actually developed an email. It went out week number 1, week number 2, and each had a different message. And then they even sent voice messages. So they would ring your phone, and it will say, this is so-and-so's church, just wanted to check up on you. So you got something email for those that had email. For those that didn't, they got the voice message. So what did that do? That took that manual process of someone constantly having to call, and you turned it into a system. And I believe one of the questions on the questionnaire says, what are you doing now that can be automated? And I want you to fill out that section of the questionnaire. So, and I know that there are many things that we have that we all can automate. If we can go to the next slide, the one that says financial and fundraising plan. So we have that second leg, which is systems. Have any of you thought of anything, because I saw some heads kind of moving, of things that you could do to make something that's a manual process more automated? What, for example? I heard someone say yes. Yes, you do have to speak. Yes, absolutely.
When you said about the manual, I was thinking like for the Connect here, the new member was in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's helpful.
And you know, when you do that, it's, you know, it's not that you're just waiting till Sunday to get that hug, but there's some things going out through the week. And when you, as a new member, you know how you felt when you were a new member. Wouldn't it be nice if you heard something other than just when you came on Sunday and somebody put their arms around you? Very good. So we talked about that second leg being that financial plan. Next slide. And when you look at your financial plan, you want to have a plan for the church administration. And I know that there is a nonprofit as well that's connected with this. I understand that it's being revamped, but the plan for the church is certainly not the plan for the nonprofit. Notice in both of those, when you look at your budget, you always have a short term and a long term. And when you look at preparing that budget, you look at where you want it to be, but you also have to project for the future. Because let's just say, what if we say that we need $10,000 a month? I'm just picking a number. That could be the actual budget, but our projected budget may mean we really want $15,000 because there are some other things that we want to do. So you have both budgets, because if you don't know how much money is coming in and you don't know how much money is going out, it's very hard to have a financial plan. One of the things that I think is really important, and many churches are doing this, at the end of every year, they're doing an annual report. Just like as if you were a corporation. Your annual report would not look like theirs, but what if you gave every member an annual report and it showed what the church has done over the course of the year, and it showed all the things, all the new ministries. So when you sat down at the beginning of the year, you developed your strategic plan, and you had 25 things, and at the end of the year with the annual report, you could show these are 25 things that we wanted to accomplish. We were very pleased to say we got 20 of them done. Isn't that something interesting? So, and you do this even in your own personal development. Right now, every one of you should be writing down what you want your next year to look like. You should have a personal development plan. I started my planning process for the new year on November 1st, and I try to have it in place by December 31st. If you really want to grow, you want your ministry to grow, you don't wait until a new year and start it. You start it beforehand, so when that new year comes into place, you already are ahead of the game. So that's going to be the process. And when we're looking at the nonprofit, you want to have donor cultivation, board development, and even from the nonprofit side, you definitely will have an annual report. So is that something that you think would be something good for Free Indeed? What do you think about that? Okay, good. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about the strategic plan. This is truly my baby, the next slide. This is, to me, is the, how can I say this? Without this leg, you might as well not have anything. Because when you really do a strategic plan, and you do one for yourself as well, we're going to talk about that, it sets the priorities. It sets the stage for what you're going to do for this whole year. It's that planning process. It gets you in focus. It lets you know what resources you need, how much money you're going to spend, what are the goals, and once you know the goal, then what are the objectives in order to complete that goal. So, and it also, what's really important is that you put a time. You call it benchmarking. So you can have a goal and you can have an objective. Looks great, sounds good. But if you don't have a date, then you might as well not have it. Because how do you know when it's done? How do you know when you've completed it? How do you know when you've reached that milestone? Next slide. So having that strategic plan is important. We all have gifts. You know, God has given us all many, many gifts. So we got this big pot, and this is our strategic planning pot. I put your gift in, your gift in, your gift in, and we start to stir. Isn't it amazing what could come out of that as we start to pour it out? Because we got all these unique gifts. And that's what that strategic plan is about. It's bringing in all those unique ideas, stirring them up, and pouring it out. And wow, you've got something that's really awesome. So again, every organization, administration must have a strategic plan. So we should be at step 1, be your best. Now, if I was to ask the question, are you your best at this moment? How many of you could say that you are your best? Wow. Yeah, and that's a hard thing to say. So we not only want ourselves to be our best, but we want our administration to be our best. When we look at the church family, we have to look at it much like it's a business. We've got to be competitive in the marketplace. We've got to have something that's going to draw people to free indeed, something that separates us from the other ministries. It may be the way that the pastor preaches. It may be the way that you hug someone. But you want to develop something that's unique to this family. And that's that competitive edge. And when you know what that is, that's when you know that you are truly being your best. Next slide. So step 2, we talk about the purpose. Again, I asked the question, how many of you could say what the purpose was at this point in time? So on the questionnaire, I need for you guys, if you know the purpose, I want you to write it. And if you don't, well, the mission is the purpose. And if you don't know it, you can't answer that question. I want you to say that you don't know. Because how can you improve, how can the administration improve if we don't know what the needs are? So this is not saying that you're right, you're wrong, you're not going to put your name on it, but it's a way for you as a whole when you come together to say, okay, we need to work on this area. We don't even know our own mission. So if we don't know our own, how can we expect our new members to know? Okay? So a mission statement. And it's basically stating what is your purpose. Step 3. Step 3 is the vision. Remember we talked about where we are, and then we want to talk about where we're going. So when you are talking about to anyone, and I came to this church, you should be able to tell me, okay, we are right here now, but you know what? In 1 year, this is where the church will be. You should be able to tell that because as a new member, they want to know, is there growth? Is there any potential here for me? So everyone that's part of administration should know what that vision might be. So, and a vision is something you can think big. And you may say, you may have 25 things and you kind of combine it into one statement and you may only do 20. But if you didn't have that vision, you would be right where you are instead of where you want to be going forward. Next slide, it should be step number 4. Now this was my favorite. This is where you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities. And opportunities are always those things that are internal, and the threats, and those are the things that are external. And this is also what you're going to do when you develop your personal plan for yourself. I know that all of you are volunteers here at the ministry, you have a role, but you also have another life outside of that. So you want to have a strategic plan overall for the administration, but you need to have a strategic plan for yourself. Because if you don't grow, the administration can't grow, because you are the administration. So I want you to think about, and I think one of the questions on the questionnaire, I did ask for you to name one strength that you know you have. Everybody's got one. You guys have got more than one. You probably have 5 or 10. But the question is just for you to provide one. The next slide. So when you look at your strengths, when you look at your weaknesses, you always ask the question, what am I good at? What do I do very well? What do other people say I shine at? Listen to what people say about you, because most of the time, these are the gifts and the talents that they see that you have. And you're thinking, really? You see that in me? But if you listen to them, it's going to guide you and where you're going to go. So when you're looking at the strengths and the weaknesses, listen to what other people will say, because that will help you as you go forward. We're going to go to the next slide, and that's going to be visualize. Kind of got off track. We talked about. Okay, step number 5. Profile your members. If I were to ask you right now, tell me about your members, could any of you tell me about your members? Outside of the pastor. Could anyone else? You're part of administration. Can you tell me the average age group? Can you tell me, are they single moms? Do you have more families? Can you tell me, what do they want from this church? What things are they engaged in? What things do their children need? That's when you learn about your members. And when you know what your members' needs are, it helps as an administration as a whole. So if you don't know your members, you want to start to profile. The next time that you guys come together as a body, start talking about that. Because when you know what that member profile looks like, as you guys develop programs, it allows you to develop those programs that's going to meet their needs. Because without it, you may be developing something and you're thinking, wow, nobody's interested in this. Well, because you really didn't look at what their needs were. You developed what you wanted them to have. But sometimes we got to develop what they have need of. Okay. Step number 6 says to write your goals and objectives. Let me ask you this. For the year that's coming forward, do you all have your own personal goals and objectives written? Does anybody have that? Okay. Oh, we got one person. Very good. If you don't have that, I encourage you to think about, where do you want to go? What do you want to do on your job? What do you want to do in the ministry? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to get other people involved in your life? You've got to start to plan, because the more that you plan personally, as I said, the more that it will impact and make a difference in the church. We should be at step number 7, and this is where you look at your resources. Because if you don't know where you can go to get certain things, it really makes it kind of difficult to run an administration, because your resources are very important. I know that if I need to talk about financial matters, I go to my mentor. He's going to sit down with me. He's my resource. If I want to talk about how do I need to grow my business, what other things, I go to my business coach, because that's her focus. So it's not always one person that can serve all of your needs. You're going to have multiple people, and you're going to have 7 of them. And I'm going to tell you what 7 that you may want to take a look at. Step number 8, you want to start to take action. You know, we can talk about things forever, and then until we do something, all of it is just talking. So there's a model called BE, do, and have. Most people start with the do. They feel like, okay, if I go work out, which is the do, I'm going to have weight loss. But what they fail to realize, you've got to start with the be, and that's to visualize. So if you can't be what you're wanting to accomplish, how can you do the do? Then how can you have it? So it always starts with the be, the do, and the have. Don't ever skip the be part of it. And that's where the action takes place. Because if I start with doing as part of this administration, if I can't see it, if I can't visualize it, if I can't see myself as a part of it, how can I do it? And how can we possibly have it? Okay. Number 9, you keep score. And I know we talk about, from a Christian perspective, that we're supposed to forgive and forget. We shouldn't be keeping score if this person hurt us. But when you're looking at building, you do keep score. Because how do you know if you reached what you've set, if you have not kept score. So from this perspective, keeping score is good. So when you have your goal is always your why. Your objective is always the how. How are we going to do the why? And we keep the score so that we know that we did accomplish the why and the how. Otherwise, we have no way of knowing. So keeping score in this particular case is good. Next slide should be number 10. And when we look at that, you want to make strategic thinking and strategic planning a habit. You know, we always heard that if you do something for 21 days, some writers say 30 days, it's a habit. That's what we want this to be. We want strategic planning. We want each leg of our table to be in place, because then we can lay out our mission on top of that. We can lay out our vision. We can lay out our core values, and then we can start to build the foundation. So we've got these 4 legs, and then we start to layer, and we layer up. So our next slide, I want to talk a little bit about best practices, because from an administration standpoint as a church, or whether you are starting your own company or you work for a company, everyone has best practices. That's where you set the team expectation. So as the pastor, he will set the overall expectation for the administration. But let's just say she's over the youth ministry and someone else is over the children's ministry. That particular group or team will have their own expectations. You'll have the overarching, but that entity should have expectations. And any person that's part of that, they need to know that expectation. Because how else are they going to be able to do the job and to do it as you guys would want it to be done if they don't know what's expected? You want to also have clear processes. That's when you write those day-to-day operational procedures. So a first grader should be able to say, oh, step number 1, go to the front of the room. Step number 2, open the Bible. Step number 3. I mean, that's just how simple it is. So if you're not here, anyone should be able to carry on that function that you have. And if it's up here and you're not here, how can someone else step in? And I want you to go ahead and read them. There are 13 of those, but I like number 13, which says, own the task from the start to the finish. You know how some of us, we're good, we start off, we're really good, but we kind of poop out, halfway along the way. But if you're going to be part of anything, if you're going to grow, you see it all the way through. So that's one of my favorites. And I want you guys to take a look. Tell me one of your favorites as you look at that list. These are our best practices. What do you think? Can I hear someone's favorite? What number?
Number 6.
Number 6, keep everything transparent. I love that. Is that good? That is good. And when you work in the ministry, we have to do that. Even when you work anywhere, everything should be transparent because you're family. You're part of a team. It's not I, it's we. It's the team process. Can someone tell me another one that they like?
Number 2.
Oh, I was going to say number 2. Manage without ego. That's kind of hard sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. But, when we learn that it's not I. So if you don't have I, then you don't need the ego. It's us. And when you start to think that way, it changes the whole paradigm. Everything begins to shift. So I really want you to have that as part of what you do as an administration. These are your best practices. These are the things that you're going to do, because if you want to achieve number 8, build for the future, you've got to follow the best practices. Next slide, we're going to talk about personal development. Wow. Interesting. That's one of my most favorite topics because personal development makes that big of a difference. The next slide. Mark Twain once said, the 2 most important days of anyone's life is the day that we're born and the day we find out why. I was speaking in Detroit about 6 months ago, and one of the participants brought her mom. And her mom said to me, you know what? I'm 67 years old, and I still don't know my why. Wow. Who would, we don't want to ever be 67 and we can't know why we're here. So I challenge you. You know that you were born. The second part of it is to find out your why. And part of it is always connected with the ministry for most of us, and there are other things too, because this is where your gift lies. So find out your why. And if I was to ask right now, and I don't want to embarrass anyone, how many of you know your why? Okay, good, very good. That's good. Amen. That's really good. And for those of you who are not sure, spend some time in prayer. Spend some time meditating. And I promise you, it will come to you. If you really want it, and if you seek it, it will change everything in your life once you know your why. So, in my book, and it is an Amazon bestseller, I wrote a process, and it's called the W. Thank you. Yeah. Last year it was. I'm really pleased with that. And part of the process that I wrote in the book, I called it the W5. And I spent this time, I went through this again. And the W5 is you determine your why, which again is your purpose. You talk about who you are. What are your values? What do you believe in? And your values should really align with where you worship as well, because you're part of this administration. And you look at the where you are now, which is what we talked about. And we talked about the what, which is the vision. What do you want to become? And notice number 5 is the when. Because if you don't have a date on it, how do you know when it's done? So I encourage every one of you to do the W5. Spend some time. It may not come overnight. It may be a month for some. It may be 2 weeks. But when you do it, it will change your entire perspective. So we're going to talk about improving ourselves. Because again, if we improve us, we improve the administration. And this picture, I love it. He's a cat, but when he's looking in the mirror, what does he see? He's a lion. So even though you look in the mirror, you don't see today. You see the vision. Okay? So we're going to go to the next slide. Shrug off the stress. Because I know when you work in ministry, I actually was a volunteer at a food pantry, volunteer director for 3.5 years. And that was a lot of responsibility, but I learned so much. I learned things about myself that I didn't even know was possible. But one of the things I learned is that you can't, you don't sweat the small things. All of it's small. So what I want you guys to do, we're going to shrug off some stress. So how are we going to do that? You should be on that page. And what we're going to do, we're going to raise our shoulders as high as we can, as close to our ears. And I want you guys to inhale. And I want you to let it go. Drop your shoulders. Let's do it again. Raise them up as high as we can to our ears. Make them as tight as you can. Inhale. Hold it, let it go. Do you feel a difference? Yeah. And this is something when you're at work and things are getting the best of you, you do this 3 or 4 times a day. It will help to relieve the stress. The next one is brainstorm. And here's what I want you to do with this. I want you to discover 3 ways you can get involved in the community. This is your community. If you're working in one ministry, maybe you can do something else. Maybe you can relieve someone. And maybe you do something outside of the church family that will benefit the church long term. So start to look at those things that you can do. It's always about giving. And the more you give, it makes that big of a difference. The next one, I really like this one. Make a list of 3 ways others say that you can't succeed. Not that you can, that you can't. And when you make that list, if someone said, oh, you're not smart enough, or oh, you don't have enough education, whatever it may be, and then you write your plan of how you can succeed with it. Isn't that interesting? So you take what someone says that you can't do, and you develop a plan for how you can do it. That one is one of my favorites. I do that often because, people will tell you, I can remember when I started my company 15 years ago, and people said, oh, you can't do that. You need to just stay working. I'm like, why are you wasting your time? You're not going to make any money. And here I am 15 years later, still doing the same thing. And it has grown. But had I listened, I would have missed the blessing that was set for me. Okay, so the next one says make a list. Okay, we did that one. Let's go down to the next one, which is bring out the best in someone else. Give someone else an award. Wouldn't it be nice if I walked up to her and I said, you know what? I have been watching you for so long. You do such a wonderful job with the children. I just want to let you know, we really appreciate it. Does that make a difference? Do you think she would appreciate that? So create your own award. Give it out. If you see someone doing something great, let them know that. Let's go over to the next one, which is write a sentence describing the last big obstacle that you had. And then underneath it, write what you learned from it. Isn't that interesting? Because if we know there's an obstacle, notice I didn't use the word mistake, I called it an obstacle because I don't really feel anything is a mistake. We learn from everything that we do. So write it and then put down what you learned as a result of that process. It does make a big difference because everything is about learning. If everything was good, we wouldn't grow. We have to have the bad with the good because it's during those bad times and those trying times, obviously, that we grow. So the next one, it says, make a list of 5 practices that no longer serve you. And then you're going to figure out how you can start to phase them out. So, and you may not do all of these. I'm giving you enough of them that my hope is that you will pick 1 or 2 of them and that you will work it and that you will perfect it. The next one is, experts say that your brain is a muscle. So when we work out, we have to use those muscles. So if your brain is a muscle and you want it to get stronger, what does that mean? You have to use it and you have to work it out. So think of your brain as a muscle, and every day figure out something that you can do that will make this muscle work. The next slide, I've given you 5 things that I want you to invest in. I want you to invest in yourself, and they're in no particular order, but I want you to invest in yourself. That's that personal development side of it. I want you to invest in your spiritual and mental capacity, because without that, the other it doesn't make any sense. I want you to invest in your career and in your business. I really want you to invest in your health and your well-being, because without good health, without well-being, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to really succeed because you've got some health challenges. And the last one is invest in wealth-building tactics. Now, probably most of you are thinking, oh yeah, that means having money in the bank. That means maybe buying a house, doing certain things. But go to the next slide. The wealth that I'm talking about is this. Let's just say we stripped Donald Trump of all of his money and we dropped him over in Japan. He's got no money, no place to live. He's broke. He's flat broke. What is your bet that in 6 months he will still be back on his feet? Why do you think that would be true? The wealth. We took away everything, his home, his money, but the key is the wealth that you build. Because when you've got your reputation, you've got your brand, you've got those people that you're connected with, you've got your resources, and you've got access to all those things, that truly is your wealth. It's not the money. So if we drop Donald Trump anywhere, because that wealth is here, that wealth is in what he's built over the years, he will never be broke a day in his life. So that's what I want. When I say, well, sure, I want you to have the other things, but I want you to start to invest in those wealth-building things that will help you get to that point. So I want to talk about your top 7 people. Everybody needs to have 7 people in their lives. So the first one is your mentor. As I said, that's my mentor. And that's that person that you're going to receive from. You don't look at what they have, what kind of car they drive, or anything that they do. What you want is the knowledge that they have, because it's that knowledge that's going to get you to the next level. So I want each of you to think about who could be your mentor. And you talk to that person, you let them know, I want you to mentor me. And I promise you they'll stick with me. I think he's been with me 12 or 13 years. He would probably like to get rid of me, but that's probably not going to happen. The second person that you need is a mate. This is the person. Come here, Johnny Gentry. This is the person. You guys are about the same age. Okay, well, we're not quite. So, and what it is, we're going to start walking together. As you chart the course, they may be at the same place you are in your career. You're at the same place, and you chart the course together. So as you make mistakes, you share it with him. As he makes mistakes, he shares it with me. And we're mates. So we grow together. So get yourself a mate. This doesn't mean a spouse or anything. This is that person that's at the same place you are career-wise, business-wise, and you guys chart the course together. And this is the place where you share, because you're helping him, he's helping you. Now that third person is a mentee. And the correct name is a protege. Because if you had a mentor that has poured into you, does it not make sense that at some point you should pour into someone else? So when you look at that, that is your time to give back. And that's that mentor. That's that person that you reach back and help. Or that could be that 21-year-old that you know that if you just spent some time with that individual, they can be at a whole nother level. Now, the next slides, I've got 4, a role model, 5, a business coach, 6, a financial advisor, and 7, a personal trainer. Those are my other 4 people. My first 3 was my mentor, my mate, and my mentee. The next 4, your list will be different. So you're going to figure out who your top 7 will be, because your list obviously will be different than mine. And you may not have all 7 to start with, and that's okay, but start to connect with those people, because the more you connect with them, the more you grow, the more your administration will grow. So we're going to talk about personal development. The next slide, what's included. So if you plan to put together a personal development plan, you should have a mission statement. We just said the administration should have one, so should you not have one for yourself? Absolutely. So what is your mission? What is your why? What is your purpose? And then you want to talk about in your personal development plan where you are, where you want to be. What things do you need? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to get a certification? What do you need for you to help you to get to your resources? And then you look at what are those resources. Do you need to maybe go to a conference? Whatever it is, you start to list those things. And as you do them, you check it off. Then you look at what people you need. That's your top 7. And you identify, in order for me to get to where I want to go personally, so I can help to grow the administration that I'm a part of, what things do I need? And then always, you do a benchmark. Okay, so I want you guys to take a look at the handout. And on the handout, it should say, how much time do I have? How much time? Okay, good. So I want you guys to look at the handout. And if I could get a handout, please. I need a handout. Yeah. And this is for you. A lot of what we talked about was actually for the church, but this is what I want you to do. This is for you. So on the second page, you'll see I've got some quotes. Third page is notes. And on the fourth page is that aha moments. Anything that I said that was kind of like, wow, I really need to remember that. I want you to put it there. But let's turn to the fifth page. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is the fifth page. And I put something in there that I want you to really think about. I gave you the signs of burnout. Wow. Does anybody see themselves on that list? Well, lack of motivation. Sometimes we've been there. Preoccupied with work when you're at home, or preoccupied with home when you're at work. Wow. So anyway, I gave you the signs of burnout, and I gave you some steps of how to heal burnout. Talked about meditation and prayer. Set aside some me time. How many of you have me time? Me time. What's your me time? How many hours? 4 a week or 4 a month?
4 a week.
Oh, you do 4. Excellent. 4 a week. What do you do in me time?
I crochet.
She crochet. Because you know why? That's probably very relaxing for her. Who else has me time? Okay, what do you do in me time? Journaling is really, really good. Very, very good. And she enjoys cooking. Now, the rest of you, you've got to have some me time. So, okay, you may, and you're probably thinking, what? I've got personal development, I've got this, and now you're telling me me time? But I promise you, it will change some things in your time. I take a whole day, for my me time, and I just do all sorts of things that I really enjoy. And I turn off cell phone, computer, everything, because that's when it becomes truly about you. So how many of you think that you can start the me time? Okay. And in my book, I called it setting a date with yourself. You date yourself. And you actually put it on your, if you keep a planner or whatever, you pencil out that time. And each time I make my date with myself, I put down what I'm going to do, and everything. So when I look at my planner, I know that tomorrow is my date. And it's just with me. It's not with anyone else. And you'll be surprised how it will change the things. So do you guys think you can do that? Okay, who can do 2 hours? Oh, someone just said, I'm doing 2 days. And that's good. If 2 days works for you, you do what you need. But I like a whole day. She's 4 hours, she crochets, she cooks and everything. So what if you had a me time? What would you do? I want a couple of people to share. What do you think your me time would look like?
Go fishing with my dad.
Just sitting there and just relaxing, reminiscing. So that me time, that's good. So now he said that, so what does that mean? He should be putting that on his calendar and setting that time. Once a month, you need to do something. Okay? Anyone else? Come on, let's share. We learn when we share. Yes, ma'am? Right. Do you want to write a book at some point? Music. Wow. Did you guys know that? Oh, okay. Okay. She's anointed to get this. So her me time, that's what she would do because that's going to be relaxing. That's what she enjoys. I need someone else to share. Come on, share. I just read someone's lips. She said, I don't know. And you know what? That means that you have never really done anything for yourself. I know we do so much for everyone else, but seriously, you got to do some things for yourself. So since she doesn't know what she will do on her calendar, she's going to block out the time, whether it be 4 hours, 3 hours, or whatever. And then when that time comes, she'll have something that she can do. And then she'll discover what she enjoys. In my me time, when I date, I do different things. I don't do the same thing every month. I do all sorts of different things. So don't feel like it has to be the same thing, but the idea is that you have that me time. And the other thing I want to challenge you guys to do, I want you to hug a tree. I want you to find the biggest tree. I mean, look at it, study it, make sure it's a big, beautiful tree. And I want you to hug the tree, and I'm going to leave my email address, and I want you to email me and tell me, why did I tell you to hug a tree? So how many of you think you're going to hug a tree? Okay. Okay, that's all well and good, but you can hug each other, but I literally want you to find a tree, and I want you to study your tree. I want you to look at it and, make sure it's big, it's full, look at the leaves, look at the roots of it, and then email me, and you tell me why. Can you do that? Okay, that should be on that notes list that you have. A tree. Hug a tree. Hug a tree. Also, on that same page of taking care of yourself, I talked about how to overcome procrastination. Is there anyone dealing with procrastination? We said that P word. Oh my goodness. So, I gave you some ideas of things that you can do. And most of the time when people procrastinate, they don't know quite maybe how to get started, or they're afraid that if they start, they may not finish, or they want it to be so perfect that they're afraid to deal with imperfection, or they keep thinking about what it should be instead of just being their best and giving it their best. And I like the last one because if you start to look at things, make everything fun, make everything truly enjoyable. It's not a chore. Make it like, wow, this is something that I want to do, that I can do. And when you start to do that, it makes a difference. So turn to the next page. It's called Promise Yourself. Coach Wooden, he was the coach that led UCLA to all of their record wins. This was the 7 promises that he put together. And I absolutely love those. So we're going to go down the road. Each person is going to read one. We're going to start with the gentleman on the end. He's going to read number 1.
Promise yourself that you will cause health, happiness, and prosperity in all your life.
Number 2.
Promise yourself to make all of your friends know there is something in them that is special that you value.
Number 3.
Promise to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best in yourself and others.
Wow. Number 4.
Promise to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own.
Wow. Number 5.
Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind.
Number 6.
Promise to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to greater achievement in the future.
Wow. Number 7.
Promise to wear a cheerful appearance at all times and give every person you meet a smile.
Number 8.
Promise to give so much time improving yourself that you have no time to criticize others.
Woo-wee. Was that one good? Number 9.
Promise to be too large for words, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit trouble to press on you.
Wow. And he wrote this, if he had lived, I think he'd be about 80-something years old now. And he wrote this 40 years ago. And it's still true today. So keep that with you. Let that promise be something that you do for yourself so that as you go forward, you're going to always remember it's not always about me. It's about other people. So the next slide starts off with what successful people do. Successful people, they magnify their skills so they don't have to modify their dreams. But the unsuccessful person, what do? They modify their dreams. Wow. So do you want to be that successful person or the unsuccessful? Okay, we all want to be that successful person. So go back and read that. The next slide. Every day you tell a story. You tell it through your appearance, your attitude, your behavior, your communication, It's your brand. It represents who you are. Do you like the story that you are currently telling? I heard some mms. So if you don't like the story, you've got to change the story. The next slide, we're kind of summing things up. I want you to picture it. We talked about the vision. I want you to start putting those plans in place. I want you to practice what you do. I want you to perfect it, and then you're going to produce it. And in my book, I called it the 3 R's. Reimagine, reinvent, and then you reemerge. So you reimagine what you want to look like, you reinvent the process of how you want to be, and then you reemerge into that vision of your future. Do you think that's something that you guys can do?
Yes.
Okay. I want to share, you see the 3 ice cream cones. I want to share this story with you. A father and his daughter, they went into an ice cream parlor, and he bought himself 2 scoops of ice cream on a cone, and he bought her 1 scoop. On the way out, she dropped her scoop of ice cream. It fell off of her cone. So she said, Dad, we got to go back in. I really want ice cream. So they went back in. This time, she said to her dad, I don't want 1 scoop. I want 2 scoops. And her dad said to her, no, you're going to get 1 scoop. Because until you learn to manage 1 scoop, what makes you think you are ready for 2 scoops? Because remember, she dropped the 1 scoop. And even though Dad had 2 scoops of ice cream, he had perfected everything, so he was ready for his 2 scoops. She needed 1 scoop. And then she could work up later to the 2 scoops and the 3 scoops. So the moral of that story is start with your 1 scoop, perfect it, move to your 2 scoop, perfect it, and move on to your 3 scoop. Okay? And the last slide goes back to where we start. When you get, you give. When you learn, you teach. I hope that I've shared enough with you this evening so that you can go out and give and to teach. Okay? Great. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up. Thank you so much. Are there any questions that you want, anything that you want me to go back over? We've got a few minutes, so we can definitely take a few questions. Somebody's got to have a question. Was it as clear as mud? Did I do a good job then? Okay. So there are no questions? Okay. Our leader obviously is going to have a question. Mentor, you do not have a question. My mentor always has something to say. Do you have a question?
We'll be quiet for a change.
Okay, he will be quiet.
This is an excellent program. My prayer is that you will follow it and you will be a successful church. All you got to do is follow your leader, be prayerful, and do the things that she went through in this presentation. My prayer is that you will be very successful in 2015.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. What is the danger of stretching yourself too thin? Meaning, so maybe there's 1 or 2 things that you really want to do with your life, but instead of focusing and becoming a master at those 2, you try to be good at a whole lot of different things. What's the danger in that?
And that's almost a recipe for failure. When you put together your strategic plan, yes, you may put down 15 things that you say, oh God, I really want to do this. But you've got to look at that list and figure out what are the top 2 or top 3 that make sense for where you are. Because if you do those top 3, it's probably going to encompass some of those other things that are on the list. So you never spread yourself, and I'm glad he brought that up, you never want to spread yourself so thin that you're more stressed out, You've got burnout. You start with, remember the ice cream, 1 scoop, we eat that, we lick that very well, 2 scoops, on to 3 scoops. It's a process. When I look back over my 15 years, and I look at where I am now and where I was, these were all stepping stones along the way. And here's the secret. Figure out the 2 or 3 things you want to do and just keep stepping. Never stop moving. Keep moving. And as long as you keep moving, you will be surprised how much you'll get done on your list.